So we are continuing the discussion. In the last lecture, we discussed allowances divided in different categories, 5 categories. Allowances, category 1, where exemption depends upon actual expenditure. Category 2, where exemption depends upon the provisions. Category 3, house rent allowance, where exemption depends upon provisions as well as actual expenditure. Category 4, where allowances are exempt, and category 5 where allowances are fully taxable. So we have covered till category 1, and let me start with category 2. So let me share the screen. So we are continuing with taxability of allowances. Category 1 I have covered. There were 6 allowances where exemption depends upon the actual expenditure. Now category 2, where exemption depends upon the provisions and not the expenditure. Not the actual expenditure. I told you in this 3 are more relevant: children education allowance, hostel expenditure allowance, and transport allowance. And here the exemption is only for differently abled people. And within differently abled, some types of disabilities are given, like deaf, dumb, orthopedically, etc., etc. So let me discuss an example of children education allowance. Suppose children education allowance received is rupees 170 per month for 3 children. This is an example that suppose children education allowance received is 170 per month into 12. So yearly the amount received is 6120. Now from this, how much is exempt? Exempt is maximum 100 per month per child up to a maximum of 2 children. So rather than 170, exemption will be 100 per month. So this is yearly exemption per child, but up to a maximum of 2 children. So into 2. So the exemption is 2400. And with this, the taxable value becomes 3720. Similarly, if I assume another example where per month calculation is not given to me, suppose it says that total value received is for 4 children. For 4 children, for example, the total value received is 3840. This is what question says, that 3840 is the total children education allowance given by the employer to the employed, and it is for 4 children. Now how will I compute exemption in this case? I will not give the exemption of 2400. You cannot say that 100 per month per child up to a maximum of 2 children. This is the exemption and 2400 should be the value of exemption. No, it is the wrong way. Since exemption is based on monthly basis, always check the amount received on per month basis. 3840 divided by 4 first. So per child is, for per child, the amount is 960. You divide it by 12 again, and it becomes 80 per month per child. Now I will say that the exemption is maximum 100 per month. But if you are receiving only 80 maximum, how can you give exemption of 100? So you will say 80 into 12 into 2. This is the way to compute exemption of children education allowance or hostel expenditure allowance. Same way of calculation to be applied, and the taxable value will be 1920. But you should not have given 2400 in this case. This is the point which you should remember. Whenever you get aggregate amount, check that on what basis exemption is based. If exemption is based on per year basis, then you compute the amount received on per year basis. If exemption is given on per month basis, like in my case of children education allowance, where exemption is given on per month basis, it is necessary for me to check how much I received on per month basis, and on this basis I will give the exemption. So this is the way to compute the numericals of category 2 allowances. There are 10 to 12 such allowances which are in category 2, but for your level 3 and 4 are sufficient. For the time being I am discussing only 3. I hope it is clear. And now next category, category 3, in which there is only one allowance, house rent allowance, where exemption depends on two things: actual expenditure and provisions of the act. So how do you compute the exemption? It is just like leave encashment or gratuity, something out of HRA actually received. You have to compute 3 points. Out of HRA actually received, least of the following is exempt. These 3 points you have to compute. First point, 50% of salary, where the residential house, I'm not using the word job, the place where job is there. I'm using the word where the house is situated. That means where the assessee is living, where residential house is situated in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta or Madras. We are still using the old names in the act. Other than these cities, if the house is situated, then the percentage of 50 will be read as 40%, otherwise 40%. Where the residential house is situated at in any other city. Second point, HRA actually received. And third point is rent paid minus 10% of salary. Now some points you should note, that what is this salary? This salary, what do you mean by salary? It is same just like leave encashment, basic plus DA forming part plus commission based on fixed percentage of turnover achieved by the employee. Now second point which you should remember is that salary is to be computed on due basis. What do I mean by due basis? This I will explain with the help of numerical now. And that too, another thing also, for the period during which rented accommodation is occupied by the employee. That is the point, that salary is to be taken on due basis, and that too only for the period during which rented accommodation is occupied by the employee. Let me discuss two examples with you. Two examples I will discuss, and then you will understand this word or concept of due basis in detail. So let us discuss an example from my book. Concept Building Approach to Income Tax Law and Practice by me, and it is given on page number, I need to see the page number, it is page number 4.25. 4.25 is the page number, and let us discuss this example. Why is it? So these are the facts of this example. Why is a government employee? First thing, during the previous year 2021, so during 2020-21, he is earning what? Basic salary 8,40,000, DNS allowance 252, but 60%, this is information forming part. That means 60% will be included to compute the retirement benefits. He also received HRA of 90,000. In March 21, he received an advance salary of April 21. He received the advance salary of April 21 of rupees 70,000. The 70 is related to the previous year 21-22. Next year 21-22, previous year 21-22, but I received it in my previous year, which is 2021. So this point we need to check carefully. Compute the taxable HRA as well as salary income, assuming that this person is living in Pune in a rented accommodation. And paying a rent of 1,10,000. That's it. And paying a rent of 1,10,000. Now, two things I need to compute: taxable HRA, and not only taxable HRA, as well as income under the head salary. Now, let us start solving it. First, let us compute taxable HRA. Now, to compute taxable HRA, I need to compute salary. So, salary for which purpose? Salary for the purpose of HRA means what? Three things: basic, DA forming part, plus commission based on fixed percentage. Now, what is basic salary? Now, before taking 840, I need to check two things. First, Is it for the period during which accommodation is occupied by the employee? Answer is yes, because accommodation was occupied by the employee for the entire year. I was living in a rented accommodation for the entire year. Okay, so I was living in the rented accommodation for the entire year, which is 2020-21. So I will take the entire 12-month salary from April 20 till March 21. So I will take entire salary 840. DA forming part is how much? How much I will take? 252 multiplied by
60%.
60%. So that will be how much? It will be
151,200.
151,200. There is no commission given, nil. So this is the salary only for the purpose of HRA exemption. 840 plus 151,200, that will be 991,200. Now the question arises that why I am not taking the salary of April 21 in March 21. This question might arise. Why I am not taking the salary of April 21 which I received in my previous year? Because clearly Act says HRA is dealt, exemption of HRA is dealt as per section, as per which section? 10 clause 13A. And Act clearly says that, provisions clearly says that you take the salary only on due basis, during which your rented accommodation is occupied by the employee. I am not computing the taxable income of next year. I am computing the taxable income of my year, which is previous year 2021, and my year 2021 ends on 31st March 21. So in why will I take the salary of April 21 in my year? Because April 21 salary is not due in the period during which you occupied the rented accommodation in your previous year. Your previous year is 2021. If I say 2021, it is April 20 till March 21. During this period, I occupied rented accommodation. Now there is a question of salary of April 21. During this period, I also occupied rented accommodation. There is no doubt about this. In April 21 also I occupied the rented accommodation. There is no problem. But I am not computing the taxable HRA of this previous year, which is 21-22. I am computing the taxable HRA of my previous year. So if I am computing the taxable HRA of my previous year, I will not take the salary of April, which I might have received in my previous year, during which I occupied the rented accommodation, but that April 21 is not my previous year. I only received it in reality, it is not due in my previous year. I received it in my previous year, but it is due in the previous year 2021. That is why I will not include April 21 salary while computing salary for the purpose of HRA exemption for the previous year 2021. And that is why I skipped adding this 70,000 in this value, 991,200. If it is understood, please raise your hand. This is the meaning of salary to be included on due basis.
Sir, so this means that in March, the employee received the salary of March as well as April.
Yes.
Okay.
If understood, please raise your hand. Now, let us continue this. So let us solve it in the next page, or here itself I can solve it. Now, let us compute HRA exemption. So I will say that out of rupees 90,000 received as HRA, I hope the font size is visible. Out of rupees 90,000 received as HRA, least of the following is exempt. Now, what is my first point? 40% of salary, because the house is in Pune. So my 40% will be how much? $396,480. And then always we have to write the detail, the theory, because you are only writing a figure. How will you tell the examiner that on what basis you are deriving this figure? So always write the theory. That being 40% of salary where residential house is situated in city in Pune, you can simply write. HRA received how much? 90. Always write the theory. Make this a habit. You write the theory. Being HRA actually received. Third point, rent paid minus 10% of salary. So rent paid minus 10% of salary. How much is rent paid? 110 minus 10% of salary will be 991,200. So this value becomes
10,880.
10,880.
880.
So which is least? 10,880 is the least. So I will simply write that rupees 10,880 being the least is exempt from tax. This is very simple. I hope now you have understood the concept of this HRA with the help of this example. So how much is the amount which is taxable? As far as taxable HRA is concerned, how much is taxable? It is simple. HRA received, always received minus exempt. So I received 90. 90 is received. And how much is exempt out of that? Rupees 10,880. So the difference is taxable. 79,120. So this is only first portion of the question. Now I am computing the total income, computation of income under the head salaries. Of Y for the assessment year 21-22. Now HRA is over and now it's a different question technically. Compute the salary. So how much is basic salary? 840. How much is DA? How much is DA? 1,51,200. Is it so?
No,
Will I
sir,
write
2,52,000.
151,200?
No, sir, 250.
252. Yes, because in reality now that percentage of DA is only to compute some exemptions, working notes. In reality, you are earning this much income. How much is HRA taxable now? I will not write 90, I will write 79,120. Will I include advance salary also now? Will I include this advance salary?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
because now I'm not applying the rules of HRA. I'm applying the rules of salary head. And if you remember the first lecture, salary is taxable on receipt basis or due basis, whichever is earlier. So though the salary was due in April 21, which is not in my previous year, but it was received in March 21, and March 21 happens to be my previous year, so I will include advance salary also. While computing HRA exemption, I am applying the rules of HRA exemption that salary is to be taken only on due basis. So I didn't include 70 there when I computed HRA exemption. But now I am not computing HRA exemption, I am computing total salary head income. And now I will not apply the rules of HRA exemption. I will apply the rules of salary head. It says that salary is taxable on receipt basis or due basis, whichever is earlier. With this logic, I will add 70 also. This gives me gross salary.
12,41,120.
1241,120 less deductions under section. Which section?
16.
16.
16. Standard deduction 50,000, which is allowed from salary head. This is the answer. 1191 120. Any problem, please ask. Otherwise, raise your hand. Arman, clear or any doubt?
Sir, I have one doubt though.
Hmm.
Sir, in the second point, which is the rent paid minus 10% of salary,
Mhm.
there is a possibility that my number can be negative.
So
How
if
to
your
find?
number is negative, then by default, what is least? Zero is least. Yeah, it is possible that my rent paid is less and 10% of salary is more. Then your C point becomes negative. Negative means nil, zero, because least is exempt. If you say least is exempt, so negative is exempt. Negative means nothing is exempt. That's it.
Correct.
Department is not going to give you any amount. Department will maximum say that what maximum they can do for you is that their entire income they can make it as tax free. That's it. So if your exemption is coming out to be negative, it means what? That you will not get any exemption. That's simple. So least becomes C point, negative, negative or zero you can see. So no exemption in that case.
Correct.
Okay, so this point is clear. Now, let me discuss with you another question. So you take the screenshot of this question. I hope this example is visible. If yes, please take the screenshot and raise your hands. We will attempt this numerical. Please raise your hand if you have taken the screenshot. I hope everyone has taken the screenshot. Okay. Let us start discussing it. I will discuss this case also. So you also read it from the screenshot which you have taken. Let me also read. X is employed in H Limited from 1st July 20. 1st July 20. That means my income will start from 1st July 20 on a monthly basic salary of 50,000 DNS allowance. 60% forms part of salary at the rate of 30% basic pay. Can you tell me how much will be DNS allowance per month? How much is DNS allowance per month in this example?
15,000.
15,000. So that at the rate of 30% is nothing. It's giving you the amount of DA per month. Out of 15,000 per month, 65% forms part. And commission fixed at the rate of 5,000 per month. Better to share that screen. Commission fixed commission, fixed 5,000 per month. He is employed in Noida, but lives in a rented accommodation in Delhi. Living in Delhi, job is in Noida, for which he is paying the monthly rent of 10,000. He is in receipt of house rent allowance of 8,000 per month from 1st July 20. From day one of the job, he started receiving HRA, but he is paying the rent from 1st August 20 because for the month of July 20, he lived with his friend for which he did not pay any rent. Can you sense that there will be some change here? I am getting HRA from 1st July 20, but I started paying the rent from 1st August 20. Can you tell me what will happen in this situation? I am getting HRA from 1st July, but I have started paying the rent from 1st August. Can you tell me logically what will happen or what should happen?
We'll start computing salary from August.
No. Salary for what purpose?
For
For HR access.
Yeah, but simply you could have said that I will not get the exemption of HRA in the month of July. You should have simply said that for the month of July, my entire HRA 8000 will be fully taxable. Why? Because in the month of July, since I was not giving any rent, there will be no exemption. And can you think logically why there will be no exemption? Because if for the month of July you compute 3 points of HRA, 50% or 40%, HRA received, rent paid minus 10% of salary, which Arman was asking, the doubt which Arman was asking in the last question. For the month of July, how much is your rent paid? Tell me, for the month of July, how much is your rent paid?
0.
0.
Zero,
Zero.
zero, nil. So if for the month of July my rent paid is nil, so my C point becomes nil. And when my C point becomes negative or nil, I can say that least is exempt. So nothing is exempt. By this logic, I can simply say that there is no need to do any hard work for the month of July 2020. It's simple. The moment you think that, the moment you get an answer that for any month or for any period your point C becomes nil, by default you can simply say that there will be no exemption for that period during which point C is coming out to be nil. I hope you have understood. For the month of July, since I was not paying any rent, my C point, rent paid minus 10% salary, will become negative. Negative means least. Negative is least. In fact, less than 0. Least means in fact less than 0. My C point is even less than 0. So least is exempt. Negative is exempt. That means nothing is exempt. So for the month of July, my full HRA becomes taxable. If you have understood this point, please raise your hand. So it's simple logic. In any period, the moment you get an idea that your C point is going to be nil for that period, you can simply write one line that for this period there will be no HRA exemption. That's it. Next. Compute the amount of taxable house rent allowance as well as taxable salary for the assessment year 21-22, assuming that he has not received the salary of March 21 in the previous year 2021. The salary of March 21 will be given to him in the first week of April 21. And further assuming that X has not opted for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC. This note word is not written here, so you make sure that there is word note here. NOT, it was missed in printing. So there is a word note that this assessee has not opted for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC. I will tell you why this line has been mentioned. So there is a word note here. And now can you see another thing is happening here. In the previous example, April 21 salary was received in March. But in this example, March 21 salary is received in April. So there is a difference now. Now let me start doing this case. You make one change, assuming X has not, it is not opted for optional taxation scheme. Have you noted this change? Please unmute and reply. X has not opted, NOT.
Yes, sir, noted.
Yes.
Okay. Now let us start solving this question. I will solve it. You only proceed along with me. Now, this is the example. Page, I think 4.26. It is third edition. Concept building approach, third edition. Now, what are the facts of this case? Okay, if you are thinking of purchasing this book, you must remember that it is third edition. If you are thinking, no obligation or compulsion from my side. If you like any other material or book, that is also perfect. In case you are going for this, then do remember that it is third edition. Now, what are the facts of this case? And please feel free to ask me the doubt from any book, any material which you have. You are under no compulsion to purchase the book written by me. So facts of the case are: X is an employee, started doing job from 1 July 20. Of course, I will start getting salary from 1 July 20. Salary was 50,000, DNS allowance 15,000, commission fixed 5,000, employed in Noida. Employed in Noida, but lives in Delhi. So must be commuting daily. In Delhi, from Noida. Monthly rent 10,000, receipt of HRA. HRA, of course, he started receiving from 1st July itself, but rent being paid from 1st August. Salary of March 21 is not received in March 21. That is also a new point. Salary of March 21 is not received in March 21. It is received in April 21. So let us compute HRA exemption. Now, I should proceed logically now. In the last example, there was no problem. I computed the calculation for the entire year. Now, to avoid mistake, though I can compute for the entire year also, but I will go from beginning. Since we are doing it for the first time, so I should tell you a method which is little bit lengthy but correct, where there are less chances of any error. Rather than going for the entire year, I should divide now my year in 3 different parts. My first part of the year is April to June. My second part of the year is July, and my third part is August to March. Can you tell me why I am dividing it, or on what basis I have divided it? I have made 3 categories. Not categories, I have divided my year in these 3 parts. Why? Can you tell me why?
Sir, when rent was received and when it was paid and when the person started paying.
So you can say that for this period there is no job, so I should not be concerned about this period. From July, HRA received, and as we have correctly said, from August, rent paid. So why I am dividing it is because there will be no exemption in this period, and there will be exemption which needs to be calculated. Exemption to be calculated. And here there is no exemption. Why there is no exemption? Because for July, rent paid is nil, so entire HRA is taxable. From August to March, I don't know how much will be the exemption, but there can be an exemption because rent was paid. So how will I go the compute the exemption in such cases whenever there is a change of what? The system got hanged, I think. So wait for 1 minute, it will come. Whenever there is a change of amount, whenever there is a change of amount of salary, rent paid, HRA received, change in city, or whenever there is any change which is relevant to compute HRA exemption, it is better to compute HRA exemption on monthly basis because it will minimize or it will remove the chances of any error. Let this screen comes. It is hanged, I think. I will write then those 4 points on which your HRA exemption is dependent. Can you think logically till the system gets unhanged automatically? Can you remember those 4 points on which my HRA exemption is based? Can you tell me those 4 points which can vary the amount of my HRA exemption? What are those 4 points? What are those 4 points which can change my HRA exemption?
HRA actually least HRA is, exemption is least of the following, which is HRA total actually received.
So 1 point is HRA received. Now in this example, fortunately I am receiving same amount of HRA from July to March. But suppose HRA also changes. From July to December my HRA was 8,000 and from Jan to March HRA becomes 12,000. Point clear or not? Point clear or not?
Yes.
In this example, HRA received is same, but suppose this amount changes, so it can change my HRA calculation. Similarly, rent paid. In this example, rent paid is different. Different in what sense? For July, rent paid was 0. From August to March, rent paid was 8,000. So it will change my HRA exemption. Salary. In this example, basic salary, DA forming part was same. Suppose any of these amounts changes, it will change my HRA exemption. And city, Delhi remains same. Suppose Delhi to Haryana happens, it will change my percentage. So whenever these 4 points are changed, HRA received, rent paid, salary, and city where the house is situated, then it is better that you compute HRA exemption on monthly basis. I will show you how. सिस्टम ज़्यादा ही हैंग हो गया, शायद नहीं चल रहा है भाई, क्या हो गया इसमें? वेट अगेन, लेट मी सी. Now it has started working. Now see, what things have the potential to change HRA exemption? I will prove you. First let me note it down. What are those values which can change my amount of HRA exemption? First, HRA received. If there is a change in HRA received, there are chances that HRA exemption gets changed. If there is a change in the amount of rent paid, there are chances that HRA exemption gets changed. If there is a change in salary for the purpose of HRA exemption, there are chances that HRA exemption will change. And similarly, if there is a change in the city where you are living, where you have changed from Delhi to UP, the percentage becomes 40% to 50%, or from UP to Delhi, percentage becomes 40 to 50. So there are chances that HRA exemption will change. So whenever any of these 4 changes in value, whenever value of any of these 4 changes, better to avoid mistake, only to avoid mistake, you compute HRA exemption on monthly basis. It is only to avoid mistake, otherwise there is no legal compulsion. If you are intelligent or confident enough to compute it on per annum basis, it's better to compute on per annum basis also in this case, in these situations. But since we are doing it for the first time, first I will follow this lengthy method and then I will show you the shortcut also. So whenever any of these 4, HRA received, rent paid, salary, city changes, better to compute HRA exemption on monthly basis. This method I will adopt in my example. How I am adopting it? So what change is happening in my example? Can you tell me what change is happening in my example? What change is happening in my example?
So rent paid.
Yes. The change which is happening in my example is rent paid. For July month it was 0, and from August to March it was 8,000. So rent paid is happening, so I'm changing my mode of calculation. I will go by per month basis. For July 20 my calculation will be different. And from August 20 till March 21 my calculations are different, just to avoid mistake. Otherwise there is no compulsion. I will show you the same question being sold on per annum basis. Also I will get the same answer, but it will minimize, or not minimize, it will completely remove my chances of error. So my first point is always I'm computing HRA exemption. So what is salary? How much is basic salary? Now every calculation is per month. So how much is basic salary? 50. How much is DA forming part? How much is DA forming part? Question mein DA forming part is 65%. So 65% of what? Of what? 65% of what? Of
15.
30% of basic salary. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that will be how much? Tell me the figure. $9,750. How much is commission? What is the amount of commission?
Nil.
Nil, because that is fixed commission. I need percentage basis. Now this is salary for HRA exemption. How much is salary for HRA exemption? 59750, or whether this period it is 59750, because there is no change in HRA. There is no change in salary. There is no change in city where this person was living. The only change was in rent paid. But now can you tell me that March 21 salary, which was not received in March, it was received in next year. Why I have taken that salary? Because when I am writing that it is August to March, I am assuming that for every month the treatment remains same. That means in the month of March also I will compute the figure 59,750. Why I have included the March salary while computing HRA exemption? I have not received in March 21. Any answer?
So we do that on due basis for computing salary for HR.
So what? So can
So
you further?
due for March 2021, not received, but it is due, so we will take that into account.
Even if not received?
Yes, sir, because it is done on due basis and it is due
Yes.
for.
It is the simple answer. Salary for the period during which rented accommodation is occupied by the employee in the previous year will be included. It does not matter whether it is received or not. Similarly, what happened in the last example? Salary of that period during which accommodation is not occupied by the employee in your previous year will not be included even if received. So both these cases vice versa. Here I am saying what? Listen to me carefully. Salary of a period during which accommodation is occupied by the employee during the previous year is included on due basis even if not received. And what I am saying in last example, salary of a period during which accommodation is not occupied by the employee in my previous year will not be included even if received. If you have understood this point, these 2 points, please raise your hands, and with this the due based concept is clear from my side. That's all the due concept. You have to simply apply the logic. Due means of that period during which rental accommodation is occupied by the employee in your previous year. Take that salary. Does not matter whether you receive it or not. Similarly, others period salary, if not due in your year, if not due for the period during which you occupied the accommodation, even if received, will not be included. Please raise your hand if you have understood this point. So I hope everyone has understood this point. So let us find out the question now. So nothing is left now in this question except 1 or 2 points. Now, just compute list of the following is exempt. Now this calculation is going on monthly basis. First point, 50 or 40. So the person was living in Delhi. So first point is 50%. How much is 50% now? 29875. 29875. So whichever month is this, 50%. Now technically this period is August to March. The calculations are still per month. It can be August, September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb and March. So for every month the value remains same. That is why I have merged these. I have merged this because for every month it remains same. HRA received same 8,000. Whether it was in July or August to March. But do remember that all these figures are per month figures. All these figures are per month. Don't have any confusion in mind that July is only 1 month, August to March. These are August, September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March. These are 8 months. Yeah, I know these are 8 months, but entire calculation is going on per month basis. Third point. Now there is a change. Rent paid minus 10% of salary. So for the month of July, how much is rent paid? Nil. So minus 10% of salary, which is 59750 into 10%. It becomes nil or negative. So point C becomes blank, negative. And same concepts. It is how much is the rent per month from August to March? It is. Can you tell me what is the rent per month? I cannot see it.
7,000. So
1,000.
10,000.
10,000. So rent paid 10,000 minus 10% of salary. So 10% of salary is 5,975. So what is the figure now? It is 4,025. Is it? So which is least? So how much is least? So how much is exempt? For July, exempt is nil. From August to March, per month exemption is how much? 4,025. Now let us compute taxable value. So how do we compute taxable value? How much is received? Now the moment my exemption is over, now I have to convert it on per annum basis. So how much is received per month? 8,000. How much is exempt per month? Everything is per month going on nil. How much is taxable per month for the month of July? 8,000. Similarly, how much is received per month from August to March? 8,000. How much is exempt per month from August to March? 4,025. How much is taxable per month? 3,975, I think. Yes, 3,975. The moment you computed this value, then ultimately you have to tell the answer in annual. So I can say taxable HRA for the entire year. How much is taxable HRA for the entire year? 8,000 plus how much? 3,975 multiplied by 8. That's it. 3,975 multiplied by 8. It is 31,800. So total HRA taxable is 39,800. Is the concept clear? Why I have computed on per month basis? Just because I know that there is a change in the rent paid, and it will affect it can affect my calculation, accuracy of my calculation. So better whenever there is any change in this city where you are residing, if the change is from 50 to 30, 40 or 40 to 50, do it on monthly basis. If change in rent paid, do it on monthly basis. If change in salary amount, do it on monthly basis. If change in rent received, this HRA received, do it on monthly basis. In this example, since there was a change in amount of rent paid, I just to avoid the mistake computed this on monthly basis. When I computed the final working, I got the answer of taxable HRA per month, then I simply multiplied it by those per month, those number of months, that's it. This is the calculation on per month basis. Now, had I not adopted this approach of per month, there is no problem. I can compute the answer. So another way, it's for you to decide which option is better. Suppose you don't want to adopt this monthly base because it is lengthy, then you can compute the answer as per our first example, where you can simply say that out of how much HRA received. Can you tell me out of how much HRA received? Now I'm not following monthly approach. I will compute it on per annum basis. Can you tell me now how much HRA received I will write?
80,000.
80,000. April, May, June. How 80?
So 72,000.
72. Because from July to March, 9 months. So 8,000 into 9. Out of 72,000 received as HRA, there is no need to compute on monthly basis. Least of the following is exempt. Now, can you tell me what I will write as salary? How much is my salary? Now, before this, now you have to tell me, and then I will show you where the chances of mistakes can arise. So, in the working note, I am computing salary for the purpose of HR exemption. Can you tell me how much is basic salary? Can you tell me how much is basic salary?
4 lakh.
How? 50,000 into? Into 8. Why not 9? You are doing 50,000 into 8. Why not 9?
Sir, because the rented accommodation is for 8 months only.
Yes. So here the problem so many times come that you are computing correct salary only for that period during which you will be giving exemption. But so many times what students can commit the mistake that they will take here 9 months salary. They think that if HRA is received for 9 months, all the calculations will be for 9 months, and they could have taken. So many students could have taken here 9 months salary. 50,000 into 9, and there the problem comes. Now, if you go by 8 months, then you will get the same answer. Now, how much is DA forming part? For 8 months. Now, do remember everything I am going only for 8 months. How much is DA forming part? It is
78,000.
4 lakh into 30% into 65%. It is 78,000. Yes. So 4 lakh into 30% into 65. So there is no commission. So 478. And now what is my first point? 50% of salary. So 50% of 478 becomes 239,000. How much is HRA received? How much is HRA received? How much is HRA received?
72.
72. Because everything is going for 8 months. तो फिर 72 कैसे आएगा?
64.
8 into 8, 64. ये तो मिस्टेक होती है ना. If you are doing every calculation for 8 months, that is why I say that whenever there is any change, you compute it on monthly basis. These are the errors. First of all, the students will take the salary of that month also, during which there will be no exemption. And when they write HRA received, they will take total HRA received, but they forget that every calculation is going on for exempted period, and exempted period is 8 months, not 9. So everything will be of 8 months. And how much is rent paid? 8 months, 80,000 multiplied by 10% of salary, 478 into 10%. So 80,000 minus 478,
32,200.
32,200. Which is least? 32,200 being the least is exempt. So how much is taxable? 8 months. Everything is going on for 8 months. This is the point which you should remember. How much is received? 8 months. Or here also you can write for 9 months, doesn't matter, because now you got the correct exemption, then doesn't matter. Since you got the correct exemption, I can write that, I can write 32,200, sorry, I can write 64 or 72, doesn't matter, because I got the correct exemption. There is no problem in amount received. I need to have correct exemption. How much is exemption? 32,200. So it will be
39,800.
same answer you will get. But here there was some chances of error. So now you are showing the received amount for entire 9 months, but you are computing the exemption of 8 months. And here so many times problem come. This only gives so many times confusion. So what were the points where there could have been chances of error? First of all, calculation of salary. In such cases, whenever there is a change in rent paid, HRA received, salary, city, residential city changes, while calculating salary, mistakes can be committed. Similarly, while calculating HRA received, mistakes can be committed. Similarly, and while calculating this taxable value, mistake can be committed. If you are confident that you will not commit any mistake in these 3 calculations, then there is no need to follow this monthly method, which is lengthy. You can directly go by this annual method. That is easy, but you must remember that it comes with some chances of error. And here also, logically, I should not write 72 here, because I'm computing exemption. I should have written out of rupees 64,000 received as HRA, least of the following is exempt, because 1 month HRA is fully taxable. Now it is for you to decide whether this another way is better in these situations where there is a change in any of these 4, or monthly basis better. That is for you to decide. But whatever method you follow, you must remember that your calculations are correct. That's it. Please raise your hand if HRA is clear. I have finished HRA. Now nothing is left in HRA. Please raise your hand if HRA is clear. Now I hope there is no problem in HRA. Due basis is simply clear. You have to take the salary if that is related to your period during which you occupied rented accommodation in the previous year. whether it is received or not. And similarly, if another period salary is received in your year, then also we will not include that. Any doubt? I'm giving you 1 minute to ask the doubts, and then I will proceed to the next concept.
Sir, could you repeat why 64,000 is we taken 64,000 in second point?
Because I'm computing the exemption for 8 months, August to March. And for August to March, the period are 8 months. Because it will be illogical if my point A and my point 3 are of 8 months and my point B will be of 9 months. It is not correct to do this calculation. Every part 1, part 2 and part 3 should be of same number of months.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Got it.
Okay, next point now. Or shall we have a break for 2 to 3 minutes? Please raise your hands if you need a break of 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so let's have a break of 5 minutes. Let's have a break of 5 minutes. We will come back after 5 minutes. It's 1:27. Please come back at 1:32.
काइंडली स्पेसिफाई यूडेमी एंड 20, हाँ तो वो करना है। हाँ
If you are available, please raise your hands.
Sir, I had a doubt.
या अरे हाँ भाई, आप इसमें पूछने की क्या जरूरत है? डाउट्स तो आपका राइट है, लीगल राइट।
Sir, in the first line where it is written out of 64,000 received as HRA, shouldn't it be 72,000, because there we are writing the total amount that is received and then we are computing the exemption amount for 8 months, that's fine. But there shouldn't be 72,000.
नहीं, उसमें कई बार ना प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी आपको। जैसे यहाँ तो फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे व्हाट प्रॉब्लम यू कुड फेस इफ यू राइट, मतलब अगर आपको ये ध्यान रखना, वहाँ ऊपर देखो कुछ भी लिख सकते हैं, एक्ट का उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। आप लिख क्या रहे हैं वो तो आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन है। डिपार्टमेंट इज ओनली कंसर्न अबाउट करेक्ट पॉइंट। प्रॉब्लम क्या हो सकती है? यहाँ तो 64,000 भी ना 32,200 से ज़्यादा था। You could have faced some situation where if you skip 1 month, maybe your, for example, this figure comes out to be 31,000 for example. ऐसा हो सकता है ना भी किसी वजह से आपका HRA रिसीव्ड कम आ जाए बाकी 0.1 and 3 से। Is it clear or not?
Yes, sir.
तो अगर कभी ऐसा हो गया तो आपकी एग्जाम्शन क्या हो जाएगी? फुल अमाउंट। यू विल राइट फुल अमाउंट एज एग्जम्प्ट। मतलब ये चांसेस ऑफ एरर है। यहाँ आप 72 लिखते हैं, 62 लिखते हैं, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। ये कभी कोई चेक नहीं होता। रियल लाइफ में इसका कोई यूज़ नहीं है। लाइन तो सिर्फ हमने बुक्स में लिखी हुई है ऑथर्स ने, अदरवाइज रियल लाइफ में तो इसका कुछ है ही नहीं। तो आप वहाँ कुछ भी लिखें वो इररेलेवेंट है। प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ ये हो सकती है अगर आप यहाँ 64 कितना कह रहे हो आप क्या कह रहे हैं कि 72 ही लिख सकते हैं ना? दिस इज व्हाट यू आर सेइंग दैट यू शुड राइट 72। अगर कोइंसिडेंटली कई बार ऐसा हो सकता है कि योर दिस 9 month रेंट इज फॉर एग्जांपल 9 3 9 4 अगर मान लो 3500 रेंट है तो मतलब कुछ ना सिचुएशन ऐसे राइज हो सकते हैं उसमें आपके ना चांसेस ऑफ एरर हो जाएंगे। दैट्स इट। एक मिनट को 3500 इंटू 8 28,000, 3500 इंटू 9 नहीं 3800। अगर मैं 38 एज्यूम करता हूँ इसको 3800 इंटू 8 एंड 3800 इंटू 9। सो यू आर सेइंग कि हम कंप्लीट लिखते हैं, कुछ भी लिख सकते हो। मतलब मुझे इसमें कुछ एज्यूम करके बताना पड़ेगा आपको कि सिर्फ प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है आपकी कैलकुलेशन एरर हो सकता है। आप वहाँ 72 लिखो 64 लिखो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता उससे। रियल लाइफ में इसका कोई यूज नहीं है।
Okay, sir. Got it.
ठीक है, मुझे वो कुछ एग्जांपल एज्यूम करके आपको बताना पड़ता है कि एरर किस वजह से हो सकती है। कई बार जल्दी जल्दी में ये हो जाएगा, अगर आप कंप्लीट लिख देंगे ना तो कंप्लीट यहाँ लिस्ट आ जाएगी और आप 100% अमाउंट एग्जम्प्ट कर देंगे, उस एक मंथ का डिफरेंस टैक्सेबल करना ही भूल जाएंगे गलती से. दिस सिचुएशन यू कुड फेस. यू अंडरस्टूड दिस पॉइंट और नोट?
Yes, sir.
बस ये प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है. रियल लाइफ में इस लाइन का कोई यूज नहीं होता, कहीं भी यूज नहीं होता. ये तो सिर्फ बुक्स में हमने लिखी हुई है. एनी हाउ, any other problem of anyone? So now we are over with the allowances of category 3. There was only one allowance category. In 3 there was only one allowance of HRA. Category 4 already I have discussed. Sumptuary allowance for High Court and Supreme Court judges. Allowances paid by the government of India outside India to an Indian citizen outside India fully exempt. Daily allowance and constituency allowance of MPs is exempt. And UNO, United Nations Organization officials, that allowance is also 100% exempt. These 4 allowances of category 4 which are fully exempt is already discussed. And there is no need to discuss category 5 allowances. Category 5 allowances are those allowances which are fully taxable. So I'm not going to discuss that allowance. There may be crores of such allowances. Any allowance which is not covered in first 4 categories is by default fully taxable. Can you give me the examples of fully taxable allowances? Can you give me the examples of fully taxable allowances?
Holiday, telephone, computer allowance, anything.
Yes.
like this.
DNS allowance. Any other allowance? Shirt allowance. This phone allowance. Any allowance can. Pen allowance. Pen है नहीं ये रहा. Pen allowance. कोई भी allowance हो सकता है. Any allowance which is given to meet any specific expenditure if not covered in category 4 is fully taxable. Laptop allowance. क्या क्या है मेरे पास? जो भी कुछ रखा है. Study table allowance. Study lamp allowance. Purse allowance. Bench allowance. Chair allowance. So there can be lakhs and crores of allowances. So you should not waste your energy in learning fully taxable allowances. Just spend your entire energy in discussing or covering these 4 allowances. First category 4. If understood, please raise your hand. Now, within allowances, last topic. I discussed with you optional taxation scheme where we have tax rates, but at the same time I showed the act also where some benefits have to be foregone by you if you want to opt for optional taxation scheme. So now you must know that allowances not allowed. No, I should not use the word allowances. Exemption from allowances not allowed in case the assessee has opted for optional taxation scheme. So now I will tell you those allowances where exemption will not be available if you opt for optional taxation scheme. You cannot claim any exemption. Full amount will be taxable. There are 5 categories. Do you remember category 1 allowance? In sequence, do you remember? Transfer, daily, then conveyance,
Uniform,
then no, uniform is in the last, I think.
academic,
Research.
Helper, academic, and I think uniform is in the last. Am I right? कुछ याद आ रहा है आपको? अगर लिखा हो तो आपने आई थिंक यूनिफॉर्म इज इन द लास्ट. नहीं याद आ रहा तो चेक कर लो एक बार.
Yes, sir.
लास्ट है ना? Yes. In category 2, what I have discussed: children education allowance, hostel expenditure allowance, and what I have discussed: transport allowance. Only for differently abled people. In category 3, I have discussed HRA. In category 4, I have discussed with you allowance paid by Government of India outside India to an Indian citizen, member of parliament, daily allowance and constituency allowance, then sumptuary allowance to High Court and Supreme Court judges, United Nations officials, and 5th, I am not discussing, there is no need. Now, if you have opted for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC, No exemption will be allowed for helper allowance, academic allowance, and uniform allowance. Whatever you actually spent will be of no use if you have opted for optional taxation scheme. Your helper allowance will become fully taxable, or you can say that by default, these three allowances will be treated in category 5, fully taxable. No exemption the moment you opt for optional taxation scheme, but these allowances exemptions will continue to be given even in case you opted for optional taxation scheme. You will continue getting the exemption of transfer allowance, you will continue getting the exemption of daily allowance, you will continue getting the exemption of conveyance allowance. Category 2. You will not get any exemption the moment you opt for optional taxation scheme for children from children education allowance and hostel expenditure allowance. But this exemption, that means these two will become fully taxable. But exemption from transport allowance in case of differently abled people will continue to be allowed even if you are opting for optional taxation scheme. HRA, no exemption will be allowed from HRA, it will again become fully taxable. In category 4, in fully exempt allowance, even if you opted for optional taxation scheme, this exemption is allowed, this exemption is allowed, this exemption. In case of member of parliament, no exemption, then daily allowance and constituency allowance becomes fully taxable. That's it. This is what you need to learn. In category 1, transfer, daily, conveyance exemption continue to be allowed, but no exemption for helper, academic, uniform in case you opted for optional taxation scheme. In category 2, transport allowance exemption continue to be allowed, no exemption for children education allowance and hostel expenditure allowance. In category 3, house rent allowance exemption will not be given. In category 4, allowance paid outside India by the government of India to an Indian citizen, High Court, Supreme Court judges, sumptuary allowances, United Nations officials income, still tax free even if you opted for optional taxation scheme. But this daily allowance and constituency allowance to an MP will become fully taxable. Please raise your hand if you understood this point. And that is why in my example of HRA, I added that word not opted for. Why I added that word, that assessee has not opted for optional taxation scheme? Why I have added? Because had I not added that word not opted, then this exemption would not have been given. My HRA would have been fully taxable. That is why I added that word not opted for optional taxation. Please ask me the doubt if you are having, otherwise we are starting now with perquisites. So let us start a new topic, perquisites. My allowances are over. Now what are perquisites? Can you tell me what are perquisites? Anyone who can tell me what are perquisites? Perquisite is basically a facility. Perquisite is basically a benefit or facility given to the employee. It can be cash or non-cash. 99.99 perquisites are non-cash, but still you cannot say that all the perquisites are non-cash. I will tell you an example where it is cash also. So it's a perquisite, it's a benefit. Perquisite is a benefit given to the employee for various purposes. It can be in cash or in kind. Most of the perquisites or almost all the perquisites are in kind, except one or two, or except some. Now, if you remember section 17, clause 2, it was giving you the definition of perquisites. I don't know whether you remember it or not. You can read the act from the website. It tells you that perquisites includes. So some examples are given: accommodation, employee obligation. So many examples are given. Okay, so I'm not going into the definition. I have discussed it initially. You can simply read it from the website incometaxindia.gov.in. You should read the act from there. Section 17 clause 2, you can read the definition. That only tells you that these things are also included in perquisites. Now, what is my job? I need to tell you how to convert those in-kind values into cash or monetary. That's it. This is what the purpose of entire perquisite. As a tax expert, how will we convert that non-cash into cash? That's it. So we will learn the rules which tells me how to compute the taxable value of perquisites. Rules will tell me how to compute the taxable value of perquisites. Hundreds of perquisites can be there, lakhs of perquisites can be there. Some which are main are explained. So I will tell you rules which will tell me the way to convert non-kind values into kind values into non-kind or kind into monetary. That's it. Why there is a need to frame rules? To bring uniformity. Otherwise, there are crores of assesses. Everyone will be having their own rules. It could have been very difficult in that case to check which is genuine and which is not. So better to have a common rule which will be followed by everyone. Now there are different rules given. Rule 3 of the income tax rule shows the valuation of perquisites. I will show you now the act. It tells you different rules to compute the valuation of perquisites. So let me show you this rule. I will only simplify that. That's it. Let me share the website. Is the website visible? I hope yes. Acts. Not acts. Directly go to rules. These are income tax rules 1962. Rule 3. Let me search directly rule number 3. If you see the heading, valuation of perquisites. This is what rules are. Okay, these are very lengthy rules. I will only help in simplifying these. In future, you will refer from this act. Rule 3, for the purpose of computing the income chargeable under the head salaries, the value of perquisites provided by the employer directly or indirectly to the assessee, hereinafter referred to as an employee. Of course, whosoever is the assessee is nothing but employee, or to any member of his household. So this benefit is not necessarily provided only to Mr. X, who is the employee. In fact, to the members also, by reason of his employment, shall be determined in accordance with the following sub-rules, namely, this is my sub-rule 1. It tells me how you will compute the value of accommodation. And there are different rules given. I will simplify those for you. You can see those rules given. Similarly, how to compute the value of motor car which is provided to the employee. So there are different rules given. As you can see, the value depends upon engine capacity, 1.6 liter or not, etc., etc. It's lengthy, a little bit technical, but I will help you in simplifying it. But you must know that in future you will refer from here. Then the services of domestic servants like sweeper, gardener, watchman, personal attendant. Similarly, how to determine the value of domestic facilities, gas, electricity, water. Similarly, how to determine the value of educational facilities which are provided to the employee or to the children of the employee. So we have different rules. How to compute the value of interest-free loan given to the employee. All these rules are available. How to compute the value of free food whatever free food or non-alcoholic beverages, चाय मिलती है, कॉफी मिलती है offices में, in reality that is a benefit to the employee. So government says you convert it into cash. Assessee has to pay tax on those things. भाई वो चाय या कॉफी ऑफिस से ना पी के बाहर जाके भी पीता तो भी तो पैसे देता ना. Now you are that assessee is getting it free. So in reality you are saving something, and if you are saving something, it means it is your income. You pay the tax. So everything which you are getting free from the employer doesn't mean that it is tax free. Government will tell you the way to convert that non-monetary into monetary. Gift from the employer, credit card from the employer, use of movable asset by from the employer, transfer of movable asset. मैंने अपनी गाड़ी बेच दी. My company has sold me a car for ₹10,000 only. मार्केट में उसकी वैल्यू 2 लाख थी. So I saved how much? 1,90,000. गवर्नमेंट कहती है कि टैक्स पे करो. You saved something. If you are saving something, that is your income. You add it in your income. हर फ्री की चीज ये नहीं है कि टैक्स फ्री है. आप देते रहिए फ्री में, हमें टैक्स दे दीजिए अपना. Employee stock option plan. As you can see, there are so many rules. So let me come back to what? My screen, where I will help in simplifying these rules. That's it. So you must know that from where I will tell you these points which I will tell you. These are not the points which I have framed myself. These are written in income tax rules, rule number 3. Have you understood the structure of this perquisite, that what is our job now? We have to simply learn how to convert non-monetary perquisites into some monetary value so that these can be included in the income while computing under the head salary. That's it. So have you understood this, the purpose of computing the valuation of perquisite? If yes, raise your hands. Okay, so now let us start with our first perquisite, accommodation. So this is our first perquisite, accommodation. I will tell you now how you should compute the valuation of perquisite. So my first perquisite which I will tell you is accommodation. How you should compute the value when house is given by the employer to you, accommodation. Now there can be 3 different types of accommodation: unfurnished, furnished, which comes with furniture, and third is hotel accommodation. These are only the 3 accommodations which are possible. Either the employer will give you unfurnished accommodation or furnished or hotel or accommodation in a hotel. How to compute the values? So now I am telling you. Yes?
I think you are not sharing screen.
Oh. So what is visible right now?
Nothing, sir.
अरे मेरी शक्ल तो दिख रही है यार.
Yes,
Nothing.
sir.
Now this is what I am discussing. This is what I have written. That now I have started discussing with you valuation of perquisite, and my first perquisite which I am discussing with you is accommodation. It can be of 3 types: unfurnished, furnished, or hotel accommodation. So the main heading of perquisite starting is with accommodation. Within accommodation, now I am first telling you how to compute the value of unfurnished accommodation. How to compute the value of unfurnished accommodation. Now it depends whether you are a government employee or non-government. Government employee or non-government. If government, then how much is taxable? Your taxable value is license fee. License fee given by you to the government. What is license fee? Can anyone tell me what is this license fee? Anyone having any idea about license fee? If your parents are in a government job, you must be knowing this license fee. Can you tell me what is license fee? Okay, no. License fee is basically a nominal amount which is received from the employee by the government of India. Suppose I am a government employee and I am living in a house owned by government. This is my house, not my own house. This house is owned by whom? Government of India. But I am living in this house. So when I live in a government house, being a government employee, can you tell me what loss will be there to me? If I am living in a house owned by the government and government is my employer, can you tell me what type of loss is there to me? क्या लॉस होगा मुझे अगर मैं गवर्नमेंट के दिए हुए घर में रहता हूँ? क्या लॉस होगा मुझे? What will be the loss to me? Any idea? As a general knowledge, logically, क्या लॉस होगा मुझे? I will not receive HRA. This is first loss. I will not receive any house rent allowance because government has provided me the accommodation. I am availing the services of that accommodation. So why should government pay me the house rent allowance? So this is one loss which will be there in case I occupy the house of the government. In case I don't occupy the house, government will give me the HRA. So this is first loss. So indirectly, you are losing HRA. Second loss is what? Not only you are losing HRA, you have to pay very nominal amount, and that is known as license fee. It is very nominal. It may be only 200 per month or 800 per month or 1000 per month. It is very, very nominal. It is just to make sure that for some normal expenditures, that's it. The purpose of this license fee to be received from the employees that very basic expenditures are required to maintain that house. Though in reality, the maintenance of house requires more expenditure, which government will do, but still some amount per month will be given by the government employee to the government of India as license fee. And further, he is losing a huge amount of HRA also. Have you understood this point or not? Have you understood this point or not? If your parents are in government job, ask them today that how much license fee they are paying to the government of India. Okay, now you simply apply one common rule in determining any value of any perquisite. Just one common rule is how much you are saving, that's it. While determining every perquisite, while determining the value of any perquisite, one thing must revolve around in your mind, that when you are receiving this perquisite, how much you are saving. How much is your saving? That is the only value. It becomes taxable in your hands. So can you tell me, in this case, or let me tell you myself, that in case of government employee, when you are getting this unfurnished accommodation, government says that only this license fee should be treated as taxable. So value is equal to license fee, that's it. Government says that this license fee will be taxable in your hands. So if you are a government employee, Mr. X, you got a house from the government of India, and you are paying license fee to the government as 1000 per month. Now the best way to determine the value is always apply one logic in mind, that how much is you are saving. It is not easy to determine saving here. It is not easy to determine how much I am saving. Can you think logically, if I have to determine that how much I am saving when I am living in a government house, can you tell me what you will think? or on what basis you decided that how much you are saving? Can you tell me how much you are saving logically? क्या चेक करेंगे आप, कैसे निकालेंगे अपने सेविंग? Any idea? Anyone?
Prevailing rent.
Yes, this is one option, that prevailing rent in the market, and this is the best option. Since I'm living in government owned house, I'm not giving any market rent. But do you think it is easy to determine market rent? Do you think it is easy? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Why it is not easy? Why it is not easy? Because you don't have any authentic regulatory authority which will tell you the exact figure. The market rent depends on area to area. India is a vast nation. So in different cities, in different places, the rent will be different. It differs as per the requirements of the person who is giving you that house on rent, as per the requirement of the person who is taking the house on rent. So there is no logical way which will determine the market rent and which can bring uniformity. So there would have been chaos totally had we determined the saving on the basis of market rent. Second, why market rent determination is not logical? Because this employee is losing also so many things. What this person is losing? That he is not receiving any. What he is not receiving? What he is not receiving? Any HRA. Am I right or not? Unmute and reply.
Yes, sir.
Now suppose the place where this employee is living, suppose the market rent, suppose the market rent is 1 lakh per month, which I am saving. But I will argue that I am losing also 60,000 as my HRA. So what is my net saving? What is my net saving? Only 40,000. Unmute and reply. Is it clear or not? If the market rent of this house is 1 lakh, of similar house is 1 lakh, क्योंकि इस हाउस का तो मार्केट रेंट हो ही नहीं सकता. दिस इज गवर्नमेंट अकोमोडेशन. ये तो मार्केट रेंट पे मिल ही नहीं सकती आपको, बिकॉज इट इज गवर्नमेंट. गवर्नमेंट डजंट गिव दिस अकोमोडेशन ऑन रेंट. बट सपोज ऑन द for similar house in the similar locality the rent is 1 lakh. I will say, being an employee, that this is not my saving because I am not getting 60,000 as HRA, so my saving is only 40,000. Please raise your hand if you have understood this point. And that is also not logical because you don't have the exact estimation of market rent. So in that case, it is very difficult. In such cases, it is very difficult to determine the net saving to the employee. So in that case, to bring uniformity, what has been decided or what is mentioned in the rules is that whatever license fee is given by the employee to the government of India, we simply assume that this is the value of this house, and that will be very less. So it will save this government employee from unnecessary tax burden, because the license fee is very, very less. So just for the purpose of determining some value, government says that whatever is the license fee, that is taxable in your hand. So if I have occupied a residential house given by the government to me, for which I am paying a license fee of 1,000 per month, how much is my value in that case? If the license fee is 1,000 per month, how much is my value? Can you tell me how much is my value per year?
12,000.
That's it. I will simply write that 12,000 is the value. When I will compute my salary, I will simply add perquisite of rent-free unfurnished accommodation 12,000. That's it. But in any case, if you find that some rent is recoverable from the employee, because what is my net saving? This is the value which has been determined as per the rules. From every perquisite, always you have to deduct one thing: any amount recovered from the employee. Rent recovered from the employee. So whatever rent is recovered from the employee, that you deduct, and whatever you answer you get the answer. That is always the value of every perquisite. You simply apply these logics in your mind, that whenever you determine any perquisite, simply compute the value as per the provisions, and from that final value always deduct amount recovered from the employee, because that amount recovered will reduce my saving. So whatever is the difference, this difference is practically net saving, and I will include this amount as income under the head salary with the name that perquisite. So in simple version, you can say that whenever I have to determine the value of unfurnished accommodation given to the government employee, license fee is the value which is the taxable value of this accommodation. From this license value, I will deduct amount recovered from the employee. If understood, please raise your hand. It is very, very simple. There is nothing in this point. Gradually, we will move to the perquisites where we have some technicalities involved. In government employee accommodation unfurnished, very simple. License fee is the taxable value. Deduct amount recovered from the employee. Next, if non-government employee. So I am doing the calculation on next page. In case the employee is non-government, then how will you determine the value? In case of non-government employee, how will you determine the value of unfurnished accommodation? In case of non-government employee, how will you determine the value of unfurnished accommodation? Now suppose I am working in Infosys. And Infosys has given me the accommodation. Is it necessary that Infosys has its own accommodation? So many times it is also possible that Infosys also takes the accommodation on lease from any third party, but has been given to the employee free of rent. So there are two situations which can happen in real life. Whether this accommodation is owned by the employer, or this accommodation is taken on rent by the employer. If I am working with a non-government employer, then there are two possibilities which can happen. The accommodation which has been given to me as an employee, that accommodation is owned by my employer, or my employer itself has taken this accommodation on rent by the employer. I hope you are understanding this point. मैं इन्फोसिस में काम करता हूँ, इन्फोसिस ने मुझे एक हाउस दे दिया रहने के लिए. जरूरी थोड़ा ना है कि हाउस इन्फोसिस का खुद का ओन्ड हो सकता है कि ये किसी थर्ड पार्टी का था, इन्फोसिस उसको रेंट देती है पर मुझे फ्री में दे देती है रहने के लिए. सो बोथ द सिचुएशंस कैन हैपन. If owned by the employer, then there are three different situations which can happen. Check the population of the city. As per 2001 census. Check the population of the city as per 2001 census. If the population is more than 25 lakh, अगर उस सिटी की पॉपुलेशन मोर देन 25 लाख है, देन व्हाट इज द वैल्यू? 15% ऑफ सैलरी. तो नॉर्मली गवर्नमेंट एज्यूम करती है कि जितनी आपकी बेसिक सैलरी है, सिंस दिस इज ए हाईली पॉपुलेटेड सिटी, सो मिनिमम 15% तो आप सेव कर ही रहे होंगे. अगर कहीं बाहर किराए पे रहते हैं तो 15% जितनी आपकी सैलरी है उस स्टेटस के हिसाब से 15% आपका एक्सपेंडिचर हो जाता है टू टेक द हाउस ऑन रेंट. This is what the rational assumption, to bring uniformity, so that every person covered under the Income Tax Act will apply the same rules. It avoids corruption in the system because there is no discretionary power flat. If accommodation is owned by the employer and if it is given to you in the city whose population as per 2001 census is more than 25 lakh, then value of house, or indirectly government assumes that you are saving 15% of your salary. That saving is nothing but your income. Similarly, if this population is less than equal to 25 lakh, but more than 10 lakh. If you are living in a city, or if accommodation has been given to you in a city whose population as per 2001 census is more than 10 lakh, but less than equal to 25 lakh, so the cost of living is a little bit less. So they say that what you are saving is 10% of salary. Your saving is nothing but income. So pay the tax. And similarly, if this population is till 10 lakh, less than equal to 10 lakh, till 10 lakh, then saving will be less because cost of living will be more less. So value will be 7.5% of salary. Indirectly, these are savings which you are saving. The amount which you are saving because you are living in employers provided accommodation. And one thing you must not forget, that always I will deduct amount recovered from the employee to determine net saving. Amount recovered from the employee, always deduct. And this is the final saving or final value of this perquisite. Always you deduct from every perquisite amount recovered from the employee. ये logical भी है, because I will say that if you are assuming that I am saving 15% of salary, तो मैं उसको क्या बोलूँगा गवर्नमेंट को, भाई इतना तो रेंट में दे ही रहा हूँ अपने एम्प्लॉयर को, तो डिफरेंस इज माई नेट सेविंग. Amount recovered from the employee. From every perquisite value, always you should deduct to arrive at the correct value, minus amount recovered from the employee. Now, if accommodation is not owned by my employer, हो सकता है इन्फोसिस ने भी रेंट पे लिया हो पर मुझे रेंट फ्री दे दिया हो, then there is no need to check the population. Answer is very simple. Value is very simple. 15% of salary. Answer is very simple. 15% of salary or rent paid by the employer. You have to simply apply the logic. Rent paid by the employer, whichever is less. गवर्नमेंट सिंपल क्या कह रही है, अगर आपने खुद वो रेंट पे ली होती तो जितना रेंट आपका एम्प्लॉयर दे रहा है, you would have paid that rent. So that would have been your expenditure. Now you are saving it because your employer is giving that rent to the third party. But when I do determine any perquisite, simply think from employee's point of view, how much employee is saving. If accommodation is taken on rent by the employer, government simply says that whatever rent now employer pays to that third party, this is the rent which you are saving because now you are not paying it, or 15% of salary, whichever is less. तो यहाँ government थोड़ा सा sympathetical है. They say that whatever is lower, we assume that that is only saving. So I will get less value, lower. So I will pay less tax. So government says that take the lower value. We are not taking high value, but at least जो lower है उतनी saving तो आपको हो ही रही है. And from this, always I should deduct what? Amount recovered from the employee. This is my net saving. Please raise your hand if this theory is clear.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, in this amount recovered from employee is the rent that the employee is paying to the employer.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
ये रेंट हो सकता है या किसी भी और अमाउंट से हो सकता है. उसका एम्प्लॉयर ये उसको कह सकता है that I am giving this house. You simply give me 10,000 per year. It can be rent or whatever. It doesn't matter. But for this purpose of house, whatever employee is giving to the employer, that will reduce my saving and I will deduct it. Now, if this point is clear, please raise your hands. So, the remaining concept of this accommodation we will discuss in the next lecture. So let us wind up this session today, and you simply revise it, the theory of this accommodation which I have discussed with you. In the next lecture, I will discuss more theory, and then we will discuss numericals of this accommodation. So that's all from my side. Goodbye.